Hi, I'm John Schol, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm the bishop for the United Methodist Church here in the Baltimore-Washington region. You're probably not used to seeing me dressed like this, but it is how my family sees me quite a bit when I'm home, and I have my daughter Rebecca here. And the reason Rebecca is with me today is a couple of weeks ago, I was leading the annual conference session for the Baltimore-Washington Conference. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with United Methodism or the Baltimore-Washington Conference, each year we have a major gathering of all of our clergy and a lay member from each church. I oversee 650 churches here in this region. And so we were all together, and one of the things that I was sharing with the group was the challenge, the difficulty for the church today to connect with people in the community, and particularly to connect with those that, well, we might call nominally religious or non-religious people. It's not that they're not spiritual people, it's just that they don't practice their faith, their religion in an institution or a gathering like a church. And so that night, as I was going to bed, my wife Beverly said to me, "So who is a nominally religious person?" And our conference takes place over 3 days. And I said to myself, I'll bet you there's a lot of people in the conference that may not understand what that term means. And so the next day, to try and help people get a handle around that, I shared an illustration. I talked about my daughter, Rebecca, who's with me here today. And I talked about Rebecca, and that Rebecca is somebody that has deep beliefs, but doesn't always practice them in church. And I shared that if I invite Rebecca to come to church, she'll come to church with me, but that's not something that she normally does on her own. And so I shared about that, and it really connected with a lot of people there at the conference. And it got me thinking about, rather than hearing that from me, it might be good for people to hear directly from Rebecca. But one of the things I did was, after I had shared that with the conference, I thought to myself, geez, I better call Rebecca right away and let her know, because some people began to talk about it on Facebook and other places. And so for 2 days, I was trying to reach Rebecca. I called her on her cell phone, and she called me back. We missed each other. We texted each other back and forth. And so it was about a day after the annual conference session, and I finally connected with her and shared with her what I had said. And she was really pleased about that. And so we talked about that a little bit and thought it might be great for Rebecca and I to talk with one another, and for others to hear directly from Rebecca about some of her experiences. So thanks for joining us today, and we're really glad. And Rebecca, I'm really glad that you've taken time to be with me and just to have this conversation.
Most definitely. I'm happy to be here.
Good.
That's for sure.
Good. And you're kind of used to me sharing stories about you. And
Of course. Growing up, always stories about myself and my sister and my brother, so it's normal every day. So yes, most definitely.
So Rebecca, tell me, what was it like growing up in the church?
I would say for me it was a little bit different than most children growing up in the church. My dad was the pastor of the church, so for you to be standing up there sang your sermon, and for you to be the one in charge, I would say it was very different. And I more or less looked at you as my dad, standing up there, talking, not listening, of course. So that's really how I saw it. I didn't really learn much growing up in church, mainly because I saw the church, more or less my dad being that figure of the head of the church, as just my dad, as just you.
Right.
And so I didn't really understand fully the concept of church, the concept of learning about the Bible, especially in Sunday school. Teachers would always ask me questions thinking that I'd know the answer. I never knew anything. Luckily, they would turn to my sister, and she always knew the answers. But I would always have to say, "Oh, can you repeat the question?" Because I had no clue. again, I wasn't fully present in Sunday school or in church for that matter.
And so what you're telling me is that in church you treated me just like at home.
Yes.
You really didn't listen to me at all. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay, good. So talk a little bit about that, and in terms of going to church, what that meant for you, in terms of, sometimes you've talked about that with me, is that you felt like you had to go to church.
Right,
what that
right.
was like.
When we were younger, I remember one specific time where it was my brother, sister, and I don't remember who started it, but I just remember I definitely didn't want to go to church. I put my foot down, said, I'm not going today.
Now, how old were you at that time?
I was young. We were living in Philadelphia. I was younger than, I want to say, second grade. It was either first or second grade. And so the one Sunday, my mom said, okay, fine. You don't have to go to church. We'll do Bible study right here. So we did. And I wanted no part of it, mainly because it was something we had to do. We had to go every Sunday. And I didn't really understand the whole concept. Again, I didn't understand the whole concept of it. It's just something that we grew up doing. And again, I think it's also very different for me growing up as a pastor's child, rather than other children of the congregation having their parents always force them to go to church. It was a little bit different, I would assume. Not much different, but a little bit different. So
what you're telling me is that the sense and the feeling that you had to go to church made you want to say, this is not something I really want to do. And when you were at church, you just kind of tuned out because you felt like you had to be there.
Yeah. And we were there all the time. We had to go quite often, mainly because you were so busy. So if we didn't have a babysitter, we would go to church, hang out at the church. So there was always some function going on when we were living in Philadelphia for us to attend. There was a ballet school that they started at the church, I remember, so they had us go to there. And that really, looking back, I wish I would have actually partaked more in the ballet class, but I looked at it as something where I had to go because you were there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, church was something you had to do, and that really kind of impacted your experience of church. Mm-hmm. Were there times that church has been helpful to you over the years?
Extremely, yeah, extremely. It's really opened my eyes to the possibilities around the world. Just going on mission trips.
Mm-hmm. So where are some of the mission trips you've gone to?
In high school, every summer we would go on a mission trip. One summer we went to Maine. One summer we went to Kentucky. Another summer we went to West Virginia. So all great experiences. A van full of 15 kids, 2 vans, 15 kids about roughly, sometimes up to 20, maybe 25. And just go fixing up houses. Great experience going to these parts of our country that I had no clue even existed. Very sheltered people. And we would just help fix their houses. Mm-hmm. So it was a great experience. Just meeting other kids of like-mindedness who wanted to help other people as well, which was a very good experience.
And you've gone outside the country one time as well.
Twice, actually. I went to Costa Rica.
That's right.
A couple of years ago in 2008 with one of the Methodist churches up in Baltimore area. And that was awesome. We did a Sunday school. They also were building a pastor's house for one of the churches nearby. So that was a great experience. That was one of the first times I actually left the country. So getting to go there was pretty awesome. Again, eye-opening. Mm-hmm. Just the possibilities of the world, what's going on outside of the United States. And then 2 years ago, went to Zimbabwe with you and Mom, and again, it's Zimbabwe. I mean, it's one thing for you to read about it or see it on TV. It's a completely different other experience when you actually are in this country with these people. I helped out with Nothing But Nets, which was a great experience. Went into these villages handing out bed nets for malaria. And the people were just so thankful for this net. And at first, for me, it was a $5 net. And it was their life. For them, it was their life. So that, again, eye-opening experience. So, yeah, I mean, church has many aspects to it, which has made me question why and open my eyes to the, again, possibilities of what else is out there, what else can be done to help other people. But what I really like about church is that and the community is that you really are able to question yourself and others because of the experiences that it gives you, such as the mission trips, which is pretty amazing.
So it kind of really opened you up to other possibilities. It got you outside of your own environment to see what other people were experiencing.
Exactly.
And you talked a little bit about doing it with other people and how important that was.
Yeah, just meeting other people my own age who wanted to do the same exact thing. I also one summer spent time in Dallas, Texas, working on Project Transformation, which again is affiliated with AmeriCorps and the United Methodist Church. And it was with inner city youth. We had about 75 kids. There are 9 of us interns at my church. There's, I think, 7 or 9 churches altogether with same amount of kids, same amount of interns. But just working with these kids, grades 1st through 9th, again, being around the same like-mindedness, wanting to help these kids that don't have much. It was just, it was a summer program, so it was Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5. So we got to hang out with them, do Bible study, arts and crafts, recreation. I was, of course, in charge of recreation, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's, again, just being around people of the same mindset, which is pretty awesome.
Were there other experiences that you had? So one important experience for you was being involved in mission. Any other experiences that were meaningful for you in the church?
When we were in Westchester, and for youth group, they had this program called WEB, and it was for disabled people. And every Sunday night, well, not every Sunday night, but I think it was one weekend or one Sunday out of every month, they had disabled people come, and we would have a little dance for them. So we would play music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, hang out, dance, have food with them. So that also opened my eyes to that these are people too. And not to be scared of them, as most kids are, and make fun of them, and whatever else. So again, opens your eyes to what's out there, and that everyone is the same. We're all people, all living on this planet together.
So these were primarily people who were mentally challenged.
Yes.
And that was a very different experience for you.
Yeah. At times it was very frightening. Very frightening. Mainly because their mindsets are at a much younger age, so they don't know what's proper and improper. So at some points you'd get kind of scared because they'd want to dance with you, and so you just kind of had to work around that. And our youth pastor at the time was amazing in helping us how to cope with them and understand where they're coming from, which was pretty cool.
Yep. So, and one of the things that you've emphasized is not only doing things, but doing things with other people where you have some of the same interest and some of the same things that you want to do. So say a word about a community, or was that something that was important to you in the church?
Yeah, I mean, I see church as a community. And that's first and foremost. It's a community where people can come together and are coming together of the same mindset, morals and values, just where they can come and convene and have food and have fun. And that's really what I see it as first. But then you get into the nitty-gritty of church, and you find that people aren't accepting of other people for whatever reason. And those are the issues that I have problems with. And just also some of the Bible as well. But we won't get into that right now.
Well, but say a word about so that you do experience. So there's these very positive things about the church, but then there's these other experiences that you have that are not as positive.
Right.
So talk about some of those.
Well, one experience that first off the top of my head, I went to annual conference a couple of years ago. I kind of surprised you and Mom, and thought I'd come down for a couple of days and to hang out. And I came, I don't remember what day it was, but at that time I had kind of snuck in, and it had just been during when you were going over the Book of Discipline in your, I don't know what
Book of Discipline, which is the rules and regulations for the denomination.
Right. And so there's a time where you allow people to come up to the microphone, state what they want to see changed in it, what they want not changed in it. And a man came up to the microphone, and I don't know exactly which rule it is, but it talks about homosexuality. And he was putting it down. He was bashing them, bashing homosexuality. And I started crying. And yeah, it's just really sad. Really sad. But so I was sitting next to my mom, and she said, "You can't cry. You can't let these people see your reaction, because then they'll put a label on Dad as well, as to what he believes should be happening." And I had it. That's just not right. So
it wasn't right to be talking about homosexuals, gay and lesbian persons, but people in general, even.
Just putting anybody down in any way, shape, or form. Judging. You know, God says do not judge. That's all people are doing is judging in the church for this and that. And it's more, I see it now, of a social event than a place where you can come together.
So what do you mean by a social event?
More of like so as I'm growing up, realizing that high school follows you everywhere you go. So social event being high school, just talking behind one another's backs and putting other people down. You have that throughout all of life. It doesn't just leave when you're done high school. It's when you go to a job, and in your work field, in your office. It's the same thing over and over again. And all people are doing are judging other people. That's all they're doing.
And so you find that in the church they're doing that as well, and you find that in the world, and you expect something different in the church?
Yeah, totally. You should, especially, Jesus says, no judge, like no judging of other people. And people of the United Methodist Church follow these words, and they don't. They don't follow them. They say they believe in God, and they say they do right, and all they're doing is judging. All they're doing is judging. So I just have a really huge problem with that.
Yeah.
Huge problem, obviously.
So that's one of the real challenges you find in the church, is that there is this judging.
You should be able to go to church and not have that. Not have that at all. Everyone should be accepting of everybody else, no matter what color of your skin, what you look like, no matter nothing, just nothing at all. Love, that's all you need. Love, just love one another, love yourself. That's all you need. So.
Talk a little bit about some of the generational differences between my generation and your generation, and some of the things that you experience with that.
A lot of people my age, we jump from job to job. I think statistically it's every 2 years we find a different job. And And we're okay with that. We're okay finding another job. We're okay getting into a job and finding out that we don't like it. So we move on. We move out. We move away. We move on. Find another job. If we don't like that, we'll go try something else. And I see that as a good thing, because you're trying to figure out what you want to do, and what you love, what you're passionate about. You might find that you thought you were passionate about something, and then your views start to change as you start to learn more and more about the world around you, and so you move on to a different job. And I find that your generation kind of stays stuck in one job. As they get older, they're like, oh, well, I don't have the education. I don't want to go back for more education. I'll just stay here. Most of the time unhappy, from what I see. And again, it's generational. And also I see that within the church. They're stuck. They're stuck in the same pattern, the same ways. They're not thinking outside the box, the other possibilities that are out there. What else is going on in the world?
Right.
What else can we do to better live together,
right,
if you will?
So my generation, we kind of get in a rut. If we like something, we stay with it. Even if we don't like it, we're used to it and we just stay with it.
Yeah.
But your generation, you'd be quick to change those
Right,
things and
exactly.
try something different if
Yeah.
you didn't find this experience to be helpful or this experience to be meaningful. You'd be ready to change those things rather quickly.
Most definitely. Yeah. Me, for instance, I wanted to always work for a nonprofit. After college, I took a couple of years doing college, needless to say. And so just trying to figure out life, and known since I'd worked for Project Transformation in 2005 that I wanted to work for a nonprofit, maybe even start my own nonprofit one day. And so finally, last year, I decided, look, I'm going to go work for a nonprofit. So that's what I did. I started working for a nonprofit, loved it at first, and soon realized that it was high school all over again, and realizing that the corporate world is not for me. Thinking that a nonprofit wasn't a corporate business. Thinking that it would be like-mindedness, people coming together for one amazing cause. And it wasn't that way at all. And what I've found through talking with other people about their experiences with nonprofits in DC, finding the same thing. That, yeah, they work for these nonprofits, but it's just a job. It's not something, they loved it at first, then soon finding that it's corporate. And that's not what I believe my generation wants to do. They don't want to be in that corporate atmosphere. They want to branch out.
So what's the corporate atmosphere? What do you, when you say corporate, you're talking about institutional?
Yeah, stuck in their ways. Hard to move up the ladder. A lot of the times, from what I've heard is that if you want to move up within a business, you have to move out. Especially in the nonprofit sector, you have to move out first to move up, and then eventually you can move back in if you'd like. But again, it's just not something I would want to do.
So would that correlate also then with the church, that for your generation, when you would go into a church, you would want opportunity, and you would want to be able to experience different things. You would want to be able to move around to different things. And you would want people to say, hey, you're somebody important, and we want to give you some responsibility. And not say, oh, you've got to pay all this dues and work your way up.
And I even found it to be that even though, say, my CEO is in town for whatever it may have been, a conference, even to go talk to her, it's not like you could just go up and approach her. You had to go through someone to talk to her.
Right.
Which, she's a person.
Right.
Why can't I just go talk to her?
Right.
So same goes with the church. I mean, it feels as though there's a boundary there.
Right.
There's boundaries that don't need to be there.
But you've never had any trouble talking to your bishop, have you?
Of course not. Of course not. I can always catch you through email.
There you go. Exactly. Now, that's a good point, though. Let's talk about that a little bit and some of the generational pieces, because you've kind of lived some of your life on the pre-Twitter, Facebook side of life, and then on this side, and you talked about community was really something important to you. So what do you see on both sides of that in terms of community, and what are people looking for in terms of community today?
Well, you shouldn't be asking me much about technology because I don't even own a computer. I don't even want a phone. But with that said, I mean, you're right. In 7th grade, I remember AIM was introduced to me. And it wasn't until 8th grade where we got into it heavily, just talking with friends online.
So better say what AIM is, just in case.
AOL Instant Messenger.
AOL Instant Messenger, right.
So I do remember times before that. And Facebook didn't even become popular, even start until I was in college. My junior year, I believe, was when I signed up for junior or senior year? Maybe senior year, actually. It was senior year I signed up for Facebook. But it's community, and it's a different kind of community. Before that, before internet technology, meeting with people online, the only people that I would hang out with were kids from school, but not much. Only the kids in my neighborhood. And we would play outside a lot. Nowadays, you don't see many kids playing outside. That's a different story. But the only time you would really I would hang out with people were with youth group, or with my friends from youth group, doing various activities throughout the week, on the weekends. So it is a great place for community, for kids to come and convene and have fun with people of the same mindset. Right. Unfortunately, we have Facebook nowadays, and it's a different kind of community. It's great to reconnect with people, but at the same time, it still keeps you in that judgment mindset. Actually, I'm always looking on my BlackBerry. Yes, I have a BlackBerry. I'm looking at my BlackBerry with my Facebook account. I always look at people's status updates, and I just read one today. Someone from high school said he's tired of Facebook, and he's tired of all the BS that it brings to his life, and that all that matters is him and his fiance. Again, people are judging other people on Facebook, especially the younger kids nowadays getting onto Facebook. My little cousin, he's, I don't know, maybe 11 or so. He's on Facebook, and he has friends, and now I worry about him and his friends and all the kids of their age just being judged. Being judged. I mean, we were judged. I remember in eighth grade especially, we would send emails, and there would be those emails that you ask questions, like stupid questions, and it would be like, so who's your best friend? Who's your favorite person in the world? And you would answer these questions, and then you'd send the email link to everyone, and they would see that, and then they would get mad at you, and Lord knows why we did it. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask this for thousands of parents out there.
Okay.
So when I call you on the phone, you don't answer.
Right.
But if I text you, right after calling you, if I text you, I will get a text back within minutes. So tell me, what is that all about?
That's not all the time. I don't do that all the time.
What, that happens. So
sometimes I'm busy. A lot of the time, I'm out doing something. I try to not answer my phone when I am out at dinner, when I am hanging out with someone. I try not to answer my phone. I'm hanging out with this person. I'm sitting with this person, enjoying their company. Why am I going to bother to pick up a phone knowing most likely that it's probably not going to be that important. It might be a little bit important. You never know. You can always call back.
Right.
But most of the time, I actually don't have my phone on me. Mainly because I forget to take it with me. But I just feel as though the people that you're surrounded by, the people that you're actually in an interaction with physically, matters more than someone who's calling on the phone.
Right. So, Becca, one of the things you do is yoga.
Yes.
And that's become very important in your life.
Most definitely.
And you have really found in yoga a sense of peace and harmony that you don't often find in the church. So, talk a little bit about yoga and why that's important to you.
Well, I was introduced to yoga almost 4 years ago, back in 2007. And after the very first time I went, I was hooked. There was just something about it. It was very cleansing. Actually, I took a Bikram yoga class, the original hot yoga, which I'm actually now certified in. And I took the class, and after class, it was just something about it. You just get this feeling of, words can't describe, if you will, maybe cleansing of some sort, just letting go, releasing of something, but you can't really put your hand on exactly what it is. And so that's when I started, and I was hooked. I did it 5 days a week. And then life got busy. I jumped off the bandwagon, stopped going to yoga for a couple of months, and then was introduced back into it. And since that time, I've been doing it almost every single day, give or take if I go on vacation or whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I will do forever, because again, it gives you just some sort of fulfillment. Again, words can't describe what it is.
Well, sometimes you've described it to me, and you've talked about the physical nature, the meditative nature, the spiritual nature, the emotional nature of all of those pieces of who you are kind of come together in yoga.
I mean, I've been on a meditation course, as you know, and even it was, for those of you who'd like to know, it was 10 consecutive days meditating 10 hours a day, and it was noble silence.
So no talking for those 10 days.
No talking.
Right.
We fasted through dinner, woke up at 4 a.m., went to bed at 9 p.m., so that was the day. And noble silence, no talking to anyone, just kind of enjoying yourself, recognizing yourself again, just quieting the mind, which really I found to be extremely helpful, just quieting the mind, not thinking as much. People walk around on their Blackberries and their smartphones, their iPhones, walking down the street, and so much on their minds, 10 million thoughts go through their mind, and just meditating brings your mind still. And I found that to be extremely helpful.
So one of the things that's really important for you that I've heard you talk about is to see yourself as a whole person.
Yeah.
Mind, body, spirit, and that yoga kind of brings all those together that you sometimes don't experience in church.
Right,
the bringing, and the sense of that all of those are important, and the oneness of you.
They are, yeah. Through yoga, mind. So through yoga, hatha yoga, there's 8 branches of yoga, I believe. Still, there's a lot to learn about yoga. Still learning. Of course, I'll be learning until the day I die, as we all will. But from what I understand, there's hatha yoga, and that is what I'm certified in. I'm certified in hatha yoga, and it's the physical aspect of yoga. So moving your body in certain ways to keep your organs healthy, really just to keep your entire being healthy, both body and mind. When you practice hatha yoga, You cleanse your body. You build strength. You build flexibility. Hatha yoga really brings your body back into balance. And through that, you are then able to have a clear mind. What was the question?
Well, what was the question? But it was really that sense of how, for you, yoga brings all of these pieces together. What I've heard you say sometimes is that you don't experience that in the church, that there's not the bringing together of the mind, body, and soul.
Right. It's really all about, it's really all about getting you yourself healthy. Healthy physically and healthy mentally. And that's what yoga does for you. It gets you physically healthy. When you're then physically healthy, your mind will be healthy. And so that's what hatha yoga is. You're doing this exercise, if you will, even though it's not really an exercise, but we can consider it an exercise because it's moving your body. That's what an exercise is. It's moving your body, getting it to do certain things that you want it to do. So it kind of is technically an exercise. But yeah, I mean, yoga is not a religion. It's not an exercise. It's a way of life. It's a way to approach life, a way to recognize what's going on in your body. It helps you understand your body better, which will then help you to understand other people. And the church does not give that to you unless the church offers yoga. Mentally, the church challenges you. As I've mentioned before, your sermons have challenged me. Other sermons have challenged me. But that's only mentally. What about physically? And it's really, I believe, we're coming upon an age where people need to be not only mentally challenged, but physically challenged. Now, I just read saw in the newspaper, they're reconstructing the food pyramid to be a plate instead of a pyramid, and to have different sizes on the plate as to the food groups that you should be eating and the sizes of them instead of the actual food pyramid. So they're trying to figure out different ways, and commercials nowadays are telling kids to go outside and play. That's what a commercial is saying. That's all it's saying is kids, go out and play. Kids don't play anymore. Like I mentioned before, in my community, in our cul-de-sac, we would all play. We would play outside until it was dark. We would play all night long if we could. But kids nowadays don't play.
So let me ask you this. What is it that the church could do that would capture your mind, your imagination, your heart? What is it that the church could be doing today?
Just really be more accepting of everyone, of all ideas all the possibilities that are out there. I mean, again, now we're in the age of the internet. It is so easy to just jump on the internet and look something up. Books are on the internet that were written thousands of years ago. And it's that easy nowadays to find out information. So if only the church could be just a little more open-minded, or extremely open-minded, as to what else is going on in the world, what else had gone on in the world thousands of years ago. So that's just something that I would like to see within the church, just to be more open-minded.
And what advice would you give to parents today? Parents of young adults, parents of kids growing up. What advice would you give to parents today, or grandparents? How do they better interact with their kids? What advice do you have?
You can try to talk to your kids, your grandkids, talk to them. The only way for someone to truly learn something, to truly want to do something, is by doing it themselves. You have to figure life out for yourself. You can take advice. You can listen to advice, but so you can tell your child whatever you'd like to tell them, how you've grown up, what you've experienced, but until they experience something like that or something different for themselves, they're not going to listen to you. Really, all you can do is just love and accept what they choose to do. Love them for who they are, what they do, and accept it. That's all you can really do.
So loving and accepting people as they are. You talked earlier about, forcing people to go to church, forcing kids to go to church is not going to be the most helpful thing to them.
No.
And that really loving and accepting them is really what's important, and helping them to experience life.
Yeah, just kind of guide them, but don't push them. Don't push them into certain directions. Just kind of guide them. If they fall off the trail, let them. Maybe they'll get back on, maybe they won't.
So what happens for a parent that sees their child going in the wrong direction? What should they do?
Let them. Let them. You have to let them figure it out for themselves. Because even if you do try to tell them what to do, or even just help them in any way, shape, or form, they might not listen to you. Again, just let them do what they want to do. Just let them do whatever. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You figured it out. We all figure it out.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
just love them. That's all.
Yep. Well, I really appreciate, Beck, us having this conversation, and I'm really proud of you and just your life and the things that you've been doing, and just grateful for your taking time to talk about you and talk about life and talk about the church. And I would want to say to anybody who's listening to this or watching this that all people are different, and all families are different. And what Rebecca's experiences are not the experiences of every young adult. They're her experiences, and maybe other young adults have similar experiences. And I, as a parent, we're not all the same. And it really is hard, and it's really very difficult. But I think, Rebecca has some real truth here, that the way we really show God's love is to be more accepting of each other and more loving. And one of the hardest things, I think, for a parent, for a friend, for a grandparent, is to watch their children, their grandchildren, other people maybe go in the wrong direction. But trying to force people to do something is not going to be what's going to help them most. But it really is just continuing to encourage them, to love them, and to be there for them when they turn around or when they change their mind. Or sometimes I, as a parent, found that really Rebecca had something to share with me that helped me in my own journey. And so sometimes I had to be open to that as well. So thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your being here with us today. And we want nothing more than God's blessing in your life and God's blessing in your relationship. And let us all just keep listening and learning and trying to understand how God wants us to live in life. Thank you.